Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. We're really excited to share some tips and tools that you can use to have a great start to your school year this year. If you're here because you wanted to be or because your parents made you attend, I promise you'll learn some great information today that will help you be successful. Next slide. First, I want to introduce myself. My name is Amanda Thielen. I am one of the parent mentors for Michigan Alliance for Families. I work with families in northern Oakland and northern Macomb counties. I have two kids. I have a 6-year-old daughter, and I also have a child in middle school. He has a disability, and he's gotten really good at standing up for himself and telling his teachers what he needs to be successful at school. I'm excited to share some of the things that you can do as well to do the same thing at your school. Joyce?
Hi, and I'm Joyce Dearhamer. I'm also one of the regional parent mentors for Michigan Alliance for Families. I work with families in the St. Clair and Lapeer counties areas. I also have 2 children. My son is 22 and finishing up college. My daughter with a disability is 18 and in high school. So I've had many years of helping her start her school year off on the right foot, and hopefully we'll be able to help you do the same. So today we're going to go over some of these questions. The first thing we're going to talk about is what is self-awareness and self-determination. We're also going to cover what is an IEP and what is in yours. We're going to learn about who your team members are and how to ask for what you need. And all of these things will help you have a better start to your school year. And finally, if you have any questions, please look for the questions tab on your GoToMeeting webinar tab and type them in anytime during the presentation. And at the end, we'll have time to go over those questions.
Okay, so let's get started. Joyce mentioned both self-awareness and self-determination, and you might be thinking, what does that even mean? But don't worry, we're going to tell you a bit about both of those things and why they're so important. Next slide. So self-awareness is really about knowing yourself. You are an expert in you. Self-awareness helps you to be aware of your own feelings, thoughts, and actions. Self-awareness can help you recognize and manage your emotions. And when you're self-aware, you can recognize how your thoughts and actions affect yourself as well as other people. It can also help you with your self-confidence as well. And in the handout that Victoria mentioned earlier for today's presentation, you'll find a link with a video to learn more about self-awareness and the reasons why it's important. So self-determination. Self-determination basically means making your own choices, learning to solve problems, and taking control and responsibility for your own life. People who are self-determined make things happen in their own lives. They know what they want and they know how to get it. They choose and set goals and then work to reach them. They advocate on their own behalf and are involved in solving problems and making decisions about their own lives. When you're self-determined, you know and believe in yourself. You know what supports you need to be successful. You know what you want your future to be like, and you can make a plan to achieve that. And speaking of plans, Joyce will talk a little bit about how to help with that now.
So I hope you have a better idea of what self-determination and self-awareness is. So now I'll give you a tool that you can use to help you figure out who you are and what your needs are. And one of the tools we recommend is called putting your spin on things. And this is where we're going to think about your strengths, preferences, interests, and needs. Your spin. Next slide. So this is it. This is called the I'm Determined tool. And you can find this link in your handout sheet. It's a great way to help you sort out some areas that you are awesome at and also areas you may need support in to help you organize your own strengths, preferences, interests, and needs. Your spin. Now, I've used this with my own daughter several times and I found it really helpful. And it really breaks it down for her so it's easier to sort out all of these things when you're trying to get to know yourself better. So let's look at each section and what you might put in it. So the first section is strengths. So in this area, you would think about things like, what do I do well in school? For example, my daughter has always been really good at reading, so I would list that there.
Yeah, and my son would tell you he's always excelled in science and math, so those would be things that he might write down here.
Then you could also put, what would you do well at home or in the community?
So my son is very diligent about taking care of our animals. Maybe you're good at keeping your room organized, or maybe you wake yourself up on time in the morning. Just think about what you do well and write that down here.
Then you could also think about what other people say are your strengths. For example, I noticed that my daughter is very organized. She likes things just so, but she didn't recognize that in herself as a unique skill. So that's something she would put down.
Yes, and I always tell my son that he's very perseverant. He will try again and again without giving up until he masters something, but he doesn't always realize that this is a strength of his because it comes so naturally to him. So you want to ask the other people in your life what they think your strengths are.
And then the next box is preferences. So here's where you would think about what works for me, what helps me be successful. Now, my daughter, she prefers to know what's coming next. She does not like unpredictable situations. So she would like, so we would put that there in that box. Also, where do you see yourself in the future? Living, working, doing for fun? You could put that there.
Yeah, I know one of my kids wants to continue with her gymnastics in the future. That's her plan right now. My other child wants to play sports in college. So think about those things. You can think about where you want to live. Maybe you want to live someplace near your parents. You want to stick in the town, that you're in right now, or maybe you want to move to the beach because you want to swim in the ocean every day. So just think about how you see your future.
Exactly. Then the next box is interests. So here is where you're going to put things about what you like to do when you're not in school. And that should be pretty easy, right? What do you do in your free time? Do you like playing video games?
Maybe you love doing chores and cleaning your room, but you probably don't love that. But who knows? Maybe someone does. They could be out there. So just think about the things you like to do and write those down.
Exactly. Or even what activities or organizations do you participate in?
Yeah, both my kids are active in sports outside of school, so that would be something that they would write down. Maybe you're part of a team as well. Maybe you're in scouts. Maybe you volunteer somewhere. I myself volunteer with a nonprofit organization. So think about those things that you participate in and write those down as well.
And then also include what your hobbies are. Are you into crafts? Do you like watching music videos? Put that down. It's all helpful information. So the next section is all about your needs and what are the accomplishments that help you. So do you need a quiet space to take a test? Do you benefit from frequent breaks? These are all things that can help you do better. Also think about, how can others help me? Do you need reminders to turn in assignments? And if so, who could help you with that?
Yeah, Joyce, I know that I set alarms for tasks that I need to remember because I personally need those reminders. You might need to have a visual reminder of directions or maybe steps to take an assignment rather than just having something told to you once. Maybe you need that repetition or visual. So think about who can help you with those things that you might need.
Yep, and then also think about some things that are hard for you. Now, I know I have a hard time keeping on track when I look at what I need to get done in a day. So I need to make a list every day.
Yeah, I find it really hard to wake up in the morning. So maybe you can relate to that.
And once you fill this sheet out, my suggestion is to bring it to your IEP team because it's really great information, especially for your transition plan, which we will talk more about later.
Okay, so speaking of IEP teams and IEPs, now that we've talked a little bit about the self-awareness and self-determination along with that spin, let's talk about IEPs and how you can learn to understand yours a little bit better. So some of you might already know what an IEP is. Some of you may have been to an IEP meeting. Some of you may have only heard the term, but you don't really completely understand what it is. So let's talk about what IEP means and why it's important for you. First, an IEP is a plan that is written just for you. It's an individualized education program. An IEP makes sure that students with disabilities who qualify for special education receive a free appropriate public education, which we sometimes call FAPE for short, that meets their needs and allows them to participate not just in the general education curriculum, so not just in your academic subjects, but also in activities like lunch, recess, the bus, and extracurriculars like after school clubs or sports, things like that. Your IEP is important because it tells everyone at the school what you do well, what you need help with, what helps you learn, what might make it hard for you to learn, and how your disability affects you at school. Now, if you don't have a copy of your IEP, you'll want to ask your parents or your guardians, caretakers for a copy, and you can also get one from your school as well.
So once you have a copy of your IEP, you can take a look at it and you're going to find all of these parts in your IEP. So the first part of your IEP is your present level of academic achievement and functional performance. So in this is a snapshot of when your IEP was written, the starting point. It covers your strengths, what you're good at, your needs, what you need help with, and how does your disability affect you at school. So in this area, you can find information about academics, such as math or reading. Also, what level you are at with scores and evaluations. It might cover communication, such as speech and conversation areas, or even behavior, such as struggling with impulsivity. This area will also talk about what some things that you might need that help you.
Yeah, and this section should also talk about all the things that affect you at school. So as I mentioned earlier, it's not just about your schoolwork. It can also be about other parts of your day, like those non-academic and extracurricular activities as well.
For sure. So the next section you would find in your IEP is called Goals and Objectives. And this is where it's going to spell out what you're going to learn and by when. So a goal might look like this. It might say something like, Anna will read at a 6th grade level by the end of this school year. But then it will also include the steps on how to get there and how they will measure that.
Yeah, that's a great example, Joyce. And related to what I said a minute ago, your goals can also be about parts of your school day that aren't about academics. You might have goals about learning to stay organized or managing your emotions, for example. The goals are about the skills or the behaviors that you're going to learn based specifically on your needs. You might have a couple of goals or you might have 10. It's really just unique to you.
The next section is accommodations and modifications. And this is where you would find any adjustments to ensure that you have equal access and opportunities at school, including extracurricular activities. So for example, you might need a quiet area in the hallway or in the library to take tests, or you might need tests read to you. Whatever it is that you need to be able to learn better, this is where you'd find it.
Right, and you also might have modifications here. For instance, maybe your class is assigned 20 definitions to learn in science and you only have to learn 12. Things like this can be included as a modification as well.
Yeah, good point. The next section you would find is called Programs and Services. And this is where you would see what services you'd participate in at school to meet your needs, for how long and where. So services can be things such as assistive technology, social work, or even speech therapy. If an evaluation showed that perhaps you struggle with social behavior, then this part of your IEP might say something like, Joyce will see the social worker for 15 to 30 minutes, 2 times a week in the social work's office.
Yep, that's a good example. This part of your IEP can also include things like transportation, counseling, or medical services as well.
Then the last part and kind of one of the most important parts of an IEP for students at this age level is your transition section. So this part of your IEP is required by age 16. And transition planning is a process used to help students with disabilities to move from school life to adult life. And here's where you will find opportunities for you to gain knowledge and skills that you'll need for continuing education, work, and community participation to prepare you for adult life. It must have your input. Your school will most likely have some activities or some evaluations that they do to help develop this plan. But the tool that we talked about earlier, in addition to one we'll talk about shortly, I think they will be great ways for you to provide input to this as well. It will also discuss education after high school. So it might say, after high school, Joyce will take 2 classes at the community college. Then it will list some activities that could help accomplish that. Another section you would find is employment. And this is where they would talk about what the school observed as a possible employment considerations, or you might have your own. So for example, it might say something like Anna would like to work in a bakery after high school. And then again, it would list the activities that could help make that happen. So Anna might connect with a local agency to go tour and apply at local bakeries, things like that. And don't worry, you're not committing to your lifetime's career at this point. It's just something for you to help develop some of those skills and learn about what you're interested in. The next section in the transition plan is going to be independent living. And here it's going to outline your idea of where you want to live after high school. And again, you're not committing to your life plan right now. It's just something to make sure that we have some bases covered. So for example, say you want to live with your parents for now, but you also might need to practice some skills so you can accomplish gaining more independence. So under the activities, it might say obtaining your driver's license or getting your state ID, learning how to get a better, take care of your own schedule more independently. So I know this is a lot, but we have a lot of information about IEPs and specifically the transition plans on our website, including a great video. And you can pull out your own IEP and go through it while you're watching this video. I highly encourage you to check it out.
Okay, so now that you have a little bit of an overview of what an IEP is, we'll go over the people and who they are that make up your team. These are all the people who have input on your IEP. Next slide, thank you. As I just mentioned, your team is made up of the people who have input in your IEP. In the next couple of slides, we're going to answer these questions. Who exactly is on my team? How do I find out? How can they help me? And how do I contact them? Joyce?
Oh, next slide. There we go. Thanks. So you might be asking yourself, who is on your team and where do you find them? So first of all, you're going to find the list on the very first page of your IEP. So again, going back, make sure you get a copy of your IEP because everyone's team is different. Each team is unique to your needs. So the other important is to know that some of these people on this the team are required, that everybody is going to have somebody filling these roles. So the first most important member of your IEP team is you. So it's really important that you have input on how things are going for you at school.
Yeah, this is a great point, Joyce. I know that when my child needed to have chats with his vice principal, for instance, they had them done away from other students, but wanted to pull him into the hallway. And this was embarrassing for him. So he let his team know that he preferred if they could go to her office. And they honestly never thought about this because a lot of kids really don't like going to the vice principal's office, but for him, that is what worked best. So it was something that was a really easy change, but it made things so much better for my child. And all he had to do was provide his own input. So you can participate in your IEP in whatever way works for you. Maybe you only want to go to the meeting for a short time. Maybe you want to stop by and read a letter about what would help you at school. Maybe you want to be there the whole time. It really is up to you about how you want to participate.
Absolutely, Amanda. I know when my daughter was younger, the whole IEP meeting, it was too long and overwhelming for her. It just wasn't going to be beneficial to have her there the whole time. So at the bare minimum, I had her come in at the very beginning of the meeting and say hi to everyone. And then she left. And that way I felt like it helped us focus, reminding us that this meeting was about her, and it allowed her to understand that we were actually meeting to talk about her. And then once she got older, we invited her to, stay longer, and also recruited input from her and explained things to her as the meeting went along. Remember, it's your meeting, so things such as class schedules could be discussed. So if it's important that the team know that if you don't want to be in choir, they need to know that information. And if you absolutely want art, they need to know that as well. So the next most important or the required person for your IEP team is going to be a parent or a guardian. Then the next required participant is going to be a general education teacher if you participate in general education classes. And this person is going to be knowledgeable on the general education curriculum that's used for all the students. So in addition, at least one of your special education teachers is required. And this is because they have specialized training in supporting students with disabilities. Also, you might find other school staff. If you receive services from other providers, such as speech or occupational therapy or social work, then it's required that at least one of them attend. And it's also required that somebody who can interpret any evaluations that were done. Also required is going to be a district administrator. Now this could be the principal, vice principal, the special ed director. And this person is someone who is going to be, who can supervise or provide special education services and knows the district resources. They also might need, be able to support the implementation of the IEP. The other important point I wanted to mention is that know that this is your IEP team and your IEP, and you can invite anyone that you feel would be beneficial to this meeting.
Exactly. You can go to the next slide. So now that we've gone over who's on your team, we want to make sure that you know how to get in touch with them. First, you're going to want to make sure that you have a list of all of the people on your team. That list can be written down on paper, maybe it's saved on your computer or your phone. It can just be that first page of your IEP, and maybe you have a copy that's available so you can look up the names when you need them. But honestly, it could just be a list that you have in your head. My child has a great memory. He doesn't need much more than to review a list a few times and go over it with me. You might be the same way, or maybe you might need something with you that you have written down. But the important thing is that you know the people who are on your team, you have their names, and you know who they are. Your school should also have a directory that lists all of the people who work in the school. The directory will have information on how to reach each person. Usually there's an email, a phone number, maybe a classroom number. You can look on your school's website to find all of the people on your team and the ways to reach them. You can ask a parent or adult or someone at school if you have trouble finding that directory, and they can help you out. And then once you have all of their contact information, I want you to think about the best way for you to communicate. Does it help if you write things down? Does it help if you talk face-to-face with someone instead? Choose a way that works for you. You might also find that some teachers might use an app or some sort of online messaging to communicate as well. So when you're thinking about what works best for you, also think about the options that your team members have for communicating. If you like to send things written down and your teacher has an app where you can send messages, then maybe that would work better than an email. So think about what works for both of you. Next slide, please. Okay, so now that we've talked about who's on your team and how you can reach them, let's talk about the ways to talk to them about what you need to be successful at school. So we've talked about knowing what your needs are, what helps you learn, what makes things difficult, and how these things affect you at school. And so now we want to make sure that you know how to tell others about your needs as well. So first, you want to review your IEP. You want to make sure that you know what's included in it and that you understand it. You can review this with your parents or another adult if that helps. And related to that, make sure you ask questions. If you don't understand something, ask for someone to explain it to you. It's really much better to ask questions than to guess or be confused or unsure of what to do. And then make sure you ask for help when you need it. You're going to put together that team list that we talked about and how to reach them. So if you need help, you can find the right person to talk to. When you ask questions or ask for help, make sure you're using a way to communicate that works for you. If you have a hard time with email responses, then maybe you might want to ask the teacher if there's a time that you can chat in the classroom. Maybe they have office hours that you could visit. Just make sure you're using a way that works well for you. There are also communication tools that you can use to help you communicate. Joyce is going to share one of those with you in just a minute. And then finally, make sure that you're invited to your IEP meeting. You don't have to stay the whole time, as we mentioned, if that feels overwhelming. Maybe you go at the beginning. Maybe you come in with a list of information that you want to share with your team. Maybe you're ready to stay for that whole meeting. Just make sure that you do what's best for you. Joyce?
Thanks, Amanda. So Amanda just covered some ways for you, different ways for you to communicate your needs. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about some ways to help you think about reflecting on what your needs are. And so in the next slide, we're going to talk about a tool called the Plan to Have a Good Day. And it's going to cover things like, what does a good day look like for you? Does it usually happen? What can you do to make it happen? And who can help you? Next slide, please. So here's the tool that I just mentioned, and it's called the Good Day Plan. And I think it's a great way to help you organize your thoughts and opinions. So the first column is where you're going to think about and list, what do you need to have a good day? I know my daughter needs to see things every day on her calendar, all the activities. And as I mentioned earlier, she doesn't like unexpected things. So seeing what's on the calendar is important to her to have a good day. So she would list that, having my calendar filled out.
Yeah, and I know that helps me too, Joyce. Maybe you need to wake up with enough time to eat a good breakfast, pay attention in class, or maybe you need to do your homework right away when you get home. Those could be things that help you have a good day. Maybe you need to be in bed before 10 p.m. so you're not too tired. So think about when you have a good day, what happens on those days.
Yep, and think about what makes me happy.
Yeah, my son loves being with his friends. I mean, that is what makes him happy. So spending time with them at lunch helps make him happy and have a good day.
And so he would list that under that column.
Mm-hmm.
Column you would think about is, does it happen now? Are you getting what you need most of the time? If no, or the answer is sometimes, then move to the next column. If yes, well, then that's great, fantastic. So the next column is where you're going to reflect on what needs to happen to make it a good day. So what is it that you need to make this happen? Let's say that you know that part of your having a good day for you is eating a good breakfast, but sometimes you just don't wake up in enough time to do that, and then you're hungry in class. So what is it that you need? Maybe a snack break will help. So you would list that, making sure you have a snack break. The next column is where you would think about, well, who can help you with this? So who could you reach out to have you help you have a good day? Is it a parent, a teacher? Take a look at your network of support and add it to the list.
Yeah, so using that snack example again, maybe your teacher could help you, right? So if you have your good day plan, you can explain what happened. You didn't wake up with enough time, you almost missed the bus, and so you didn't have time to eat a good breakfast. So once you get a snack, you can get back on track for your good day.
Absolutely. And as I mentioned earlier, this tool is on your handout sheet, and it's really easy to fill out, and I think it's a really helpful tool. Next slide.
Okay, so we've gone through a lot of information. We're on our last tip. We want to talk about how you can practice things to make sure that things start off on the right foot this school year. So there are, thank you. So there are many things that you want to consider before the school year starts and things that you might want to practice before your first day. So the first thing I want to think about is this a new school for you? You might be starting middle school or junior high. Others of you might be transitioning from middle school or junior high to high school. So if this is a new school for you, some of these things might be extra important to pay attention to. So next, you'll want to find out if your school has an open house event where you can visit the school and meet the teachers. This is usually a great way, a great event to attend if your school has one, but just know that you don't have to wait for the open house necessarily to visit. Sometimes that open house can feel overwhelming or busy or distracting. I mean, you're going to see friends there. You might see teachers you haven't seen all summer and you want to chat. There'll be a lot of people in there. Maybe it's harder to find things or to stay focused. But schools are usually open before the first day or even before the open house. So you can visit before things are too busy. Before school starts, my son and I usually visit the school when there aren't too many people there so that he can focus on getting used to the school again, finding his classes and the other places that he needs to go.
This is such a great tip. And I don't know that a lot of people think about that, but you don't have to wait until that open house. Absolutely not. I do think it's better to let your school know, give them a heads up that you need to come visit. But I know when my daughter was transitioning to a new school, especially, we would visit several times, and it really helped her be less anxious about that first day.
Yeah, I swear, we all get first day jitters, right?
Absolutely.
So when you visit your school, you'll want to walk your schedule. And don't just think about visiting, your classroom or classrooms. Try to come into the school the same way you would as if it were your first day. Do you get dropped off? See if you can get dropped off right at that spot that you normally would. Do you take the bus? Maybe you go in through where, the entrance from where the bus loop is. Do you drive yourself? Try parking your car where you normally would and walking in that way. So just try to go in the same way you would on your first day. You're going to want to, of course, have a copy of your schedule with you. When you walk your schedule, you want to also think about the times you might be going back to your locker, to the cafeteria, or other places that aren't classrooms. I know my son has a homeroom type class that he needs to visit for 20 minutes every day. So it's important that he knows where that is and when he needs to go there as well. You'll also want to practice opening your locker. Some of you may be using a locker with a lock for the first time. Others may have a new locker location or combination. Maybe it's the same old locker and combination, but just make sure to practice a few times so you're sure how to open the locker and relock it when you're finished. I say this because last fall, my son and I went to his school to walk his schedule, and we made a locker stop, and his locker would not open with the combination that he was given. And we both tried several times, and it turned out that he was just given the wrong combination. So unexpected things like that can happen. So if you can practice in advance, you can work out some of those issues and you won't have to deal with that on your first day of school. Next, I talked a little bit about this, but make sure you know where all the important places besides your classrooms are located. Do you know where the bathrooms are? Do you know where the counseling office is? Maybe you have services in your IEP like speech therapy or social work. You want to check that school directory and know where those classrooms or offices are so that you can make sure you know how to get to them. You'll also want to connect with your IEP team before school starts. You can send an email introducing yourself and explaining your needs, or you can use one of those tools that we have available. So on that handout sheet that you received, you'll find links to that SPIN and the Good Day plan that Joyce went over. And you'll also find a link to a student snapshot that you could use to communicate information about you to your team. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. And then finally, make sure you complete and review your SPIN activity and the Good Day plan to make sure you're ready and you know what you need to have a successful year. So next, let's talk about that student snapshot I mentioned just a minute ago. If we can go to the next slide. So when you go to your open house or to meet your teachers, you can consider bringing along something that can help them get to know you better. Your teachers should have received and reviewed your IEP. But sometimes giving them something about you personally that can help them really understand who you are can help you to have a much smoother start. To help your teachers and staff understand you better, you can create something we like to call a student snapshot. You can work on this with a parent or another adult, whatever helps. Try to keep it simple though. Keep it personal and try and maybe prioritize 5, maybe 6 points in each section. You can include things like your likes, your dislikes, what works for you, what doesn't work for you, your strengths, and also things that you might be working on, like skills you might be working on. Some of this information you can probably find right in your Spin or Good Day plan if you've completed those. So you can decide who to give this snapshot to and how to give it to them as well. So maybe you want to actually do this and print out something and hand it to your teachers and your team members at your back to school open house, like I just mentioned. Or maybe you want to send it to them in an email. That might work better for you to just write an email out. You get to decide how you want to create it. We do have a link to a template in your handouts, but that might not work best for you. That's okay. Just do what works for you. If you want to type it up or handwrite a note, whatever works best. And if you're like my student, you might be tempted to just have your parents do this for you. It's okay to work on it with your parents or to have help with it, but it really is best when it comes directly from you. It can help build relationships, and it can honestly really help you with that self-awareness and self-determination, those skills that we talked about at the beginning of this presentation. And it can help you to learn to advocate for yourself. So try and do this on your own. Well, not on your own, but try to be the leader of this and the communicator if you can be.
Yeah, absolutely, Amanda. I think this is a great tool for students to use. And it doesn't have to be a whole lot. It can just be something simple, but something as little as if your name is Robert and you really prefer to be called Bobby, having the teacher know that in advance will just get you both right off on the right foot. So I love this idea.
Yeah, same here.
So as a recap, I know we reviewed a lot of stuff, but hopefully you have a better idea of who you are and what you need: self-determination, self-awareness. Hopefully now you should have an idea of what's in your IEP and what it is, as well as who your team members are and how to reach them. Hopefully you can have a chance to go over your Spin and Good Day plan sheets, and all of these things together will help you start your school year off on the right foot. So remember, all of those topics are going to be linked in the handout sheet.
Okay, so now you have been here listening and heard so much from us, and so now we want to hear from you also. So let's open this up for questions if we can.
Thank you so much for your presentation, ladies. We do have a few questions in the chat. The first question is, as a parent, I have felt that the IEP tends to become stagnant for the rest of the time, primarily when it is autism related. I've noticed and discussed numerous times upgrading the IEP. What I see in the initial IEP when it was put in place. Despite that, my son has made significant progress, but it doesn't reflect that in his IEP. How do we talk about it?
So you can request to meet with your IEP team if you want to review your IEP and talk about your concerns. On our website, we do have some sample letters to request a meeting with the IEP team if you'd like to meet with them and talk about your concerns and go through all of that. You have anything else to add, Joyce?
No, I wasn't sure if I heard the question quite well. The concern was that the IEP is not really being updated frequently.
Yes, and that it doesn't reflect all of the progress made.
It doesn't. Now, you know, I request frequent meetings with my daughter's IEP team to address things like that. It doesn't always have to be a formal IEP, but meeting and talking regularly can help address some of those issues, I think.
Thank you. We have one other question in the chat. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. So these are all really useful ideas that you've shared. How would this be different if the student is on a 504 plan this year instead of the IEP he has had in the past?
I think a lot of it can be, can be the same. You won't have necessarily IEP team members, right? But the concepts are the same. So you're going to want to review the 504 plan, review the accommodations that are in it, know who is in charge of his 504 plan. Certainly the things like the good day plan, the spin, the student snapshot, those are all still really great tools really for any student to use to communicate with their team. It can just really help with those self-advocacy skills that we talked about and the self-determination. So certainly it's a little bit different because you don't have all the team members and that IEP piece, but a lot of this still can apply.
Absolutely, especially in the sense that if a student is going to be graduating from high school with a 504 and is planning on attending post-secondary after high school education, there is not an IEP for that. So having used some of these tools and practicing that self-determination and self-advocacy will help you in a college setting or any post-secondary setting where you might need to explain to a professor that you need extra support in a certain area. And so this is a really kind of a safe way in the high school years to be able to practice those skills.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Thank you so much. We have another question. Give me just a second. I emailed the teacher and principal of my daughter's school about her IEP and we didn't hear from her. When then followed up about a month later and her response was that they don't have to respond until school starts. Is that true?
Victoria, I couldn't quite hear you, to be honest. Can you just talk a little bit? Can you repeat that?
I'm so sorry. It says, I emailed the teacher and principal of my daughter's school about her IEP and we didn't hear back. When I followed up about a month later, their response was that they don't have to respond until school starts back. Is that true?
There are some things where your clock, it runs on school days. So if you were requesting an evaluation, things like that, the school has, for instance, 10 school days to respond to your request for an evaluation. So if school was not in session, that would be correct that the school days is kind of where the clock starts ticking, if you will. So there are some instances like that. Other than that, if you have a specifics, unless you have anything to add, Joyce, I would recommend that you reach out to your parent mentor to talk about the specific situation with your school, and they would be happy to talk you through everything and help you out.
Right, because if you send an email and nobody's there to receive the email, then it is fair to expect that they aren't going to reply. If you are, like Amanda said, requesting a specific evaluation or something like that, that is covered under a certain criteria. It would most likely be school days. So again, that would apply that if school is not in session, then that would be appropriate, but not ideal, certainly.
All righty, thank you so much, ladies. These are all the questions that we have today.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. Well, hopefully we were helpful and offered some good tips and that everybody has a good, starts their school year off on the right.
Yeah, I will go ahead and share the survey again in the chat for everyone, the post-evaluation session, so that we can ask for your feedback on this presentation. And a recording of this presentation will also be available on our website. Give me just a second to navigate to grab that link for you as well. It'll be available at a later time for you to have at your access. And it'll also have the previous sessions recordings as well and handouts. Don't forget to stay connected with us. We're here to support you. These are all the ways on the screen that you can connect with us via Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube, as well as visiting our website, calling our 1-800 number, or emailing us at info@MichiganAlliance for Michigan Alliance for Families is an IDEA grant-funded initiative of the Michigan Department of Education's Office of Special Education and Michigan's Federal Parent Training and Information Center, funded by the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Special Education. Thank you all for joining us today and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.